Welcome to the Leadership Lovers Podcast. I'm your host, Will Gladhart, CMO at the Culture Think Tank. At the Culture Think Tank, we empower leaders with metrics that strengthen culture, drive performance, and return. We're here today to learn about the actions leaders have taken to address organizational change. Today, our guest is Brant Lingle, process and strategic consultant at Scott Hackman Ventures. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
You're welcome, Will. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, let's start today by having you share with us and our audience a bit about yourself, your background, and your organization.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, Brant Lingle, I love making leaders' lives a little easier. That's kind of what really motivates me. Spend most of my workaday collaborating with executive C-suite folk, business owners, senior managers, and really kind of focusing in on the people side of business. So my background has been an executive leader myself. A lot of my work has been in nonprofit and organizational leadership, been served on boards, helped build boards, and really, I kind of was thinking about the other day in terms of management, like since day one, I had people reporting to me. And so just have learned a lot through those experiences, plenty of bumps in the road, mistakes I've made that I've learned from. And I like to just offer to people that I work with, whether it's consulting, coaching, advising, or on strategy or on process. Again, most of that has to do with like people, leadership development. And that's really what our company, Scott Hackman Ventures, is all about. We train, we coach, we consult, all on business strategy, the people side, a lot of emotional intelligence kind of language and culture, things that we talk about. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me and what I do day to day and what I love about it. So
Perfect. Well, we'll be discussing 3 questions today. As a warm up to our conversation, would you share why you believe a healthy culture is critical?
yeah, as I mentioned earlier, like one of my driving passions or my why is to make leaders' lives a little easier. And the reason is because I feel like if their lives are a little easier, they'll do their job as a leader a little bit better. The organization will just kind of function and work a little bit better. I really feel like workplaces shouldn't be terrible. I think they should be a place where like people feel they can thrive, they're energized, they enjoy what they do. It doesn't mean there's not challenges or headaches or frustration, but it's just like it shouldn't be a place that makes me feel like, oh, I hate my job, I hate where I work, I hate the people I work with, that kind of thing. Because I just feel like we're at a point now where organizations can really be exceptional and really invest into people like to grow and almost like develop even as humans, kind of as well. So I think a lot of that has to do with culture. I think it's pretty known statistics that most people quit their manager or boss and quit because the culture at the workplace is horrible. Like those are some of the primary reasons.
Right.
And so I just really feel like having a healthy culture keeps you in business, keeps top talent, part of your team, helps you to grow. There's obviously a profitability aspect that comes with healthy culture. And at the end of the day, you're helping humans in your organization become even better humans when there's good culture. So
Yeah.
that to me, it's essential.
Yeah, no, I love that you touch on kind of that whole human approach, but also the
Mhm.
value of guiding and developing your human capital assets in the
Mhm.
organization. And I think we've all probably had that one instance or job where we had to stand outside for 90 seconds and convince ourselves to walk in the door. So, which is terrible, but also I
Yep.
think a lot of leaders or even C-suite
Mhm.
individuals can relate to that. So, we'll begin with question one.
Okay.
It's been our experience that leaders tend to struggle in 3 key areas: people, process, or profits, or sometimes interchangeably. In your role as a consultant, but also as a leader, could you identify one of these areas that presented a challenge within your organization or how you went about solving that?
Yeah, I'll kind of maybe mention kind of two aspects. One in the organization. So I'm part of a consulting firm, Scott Hackman Ventures, and we have had process challenges because, and I'll kind of share a little bit of how we went about resolving that. But we have different personalities on the team. Obviously, we're people experts. We've all taken DISC and Hogan and predictive index and working genius. We use a lot of these assessments for our clients. So we kind of like really work to practice what we preach, so to speak. And we've just kind of recognized at times we have a process gap. So one quick example of that is we did Working Genius with one of our consultants who's certified, and our whole team did it. And we thought we have a galvanizing gap. So we like to discern things and ideate, and we can talk all day long about all the great things we do or could do, but moving it into, okay, let's now implement, let's galvanize, let's move this thing forward. We can get stuck there. So we had to create a process to be able to help us like, okay, time out. We kind of ideated and discerned this to death. Let's say, where's the galvanizing opportunity? How do we move this forward in a way that is productive? So that's one example that we've used internally. And then I would say with most of the time we're brought into organization, we come in through the C-suite, typically the CEO, the COO, there's a CHRO, a VP of people and culture, something like that. And they just recognize that they either are even having a leadership challenge, or they're recognizing if we really invest in our human capital, invest in developing our people, we'll grow. It's almost like if we're not doing that, it could hold us back in terms of growth. And so we'll come in, help do a lot of assessments, especially around leadership, personality, teams, and then we'll help them identify where the gaps. A lot of times there's communication gaps. It's so easy to create misunderstandings on a day-to-day basis. And so we'll help them minimize those gaps and notice how they're either getting in the way of productivity, getting in the way of profitability. And so that's a lot of the work that we do within a client system.
Yeah, I love that you touch on that, looking at kind of the process and operational piece, but also bridging that gap over into the people, performance, and profit area,
Mhm.
because it's really important not only to keep the people, but the people that are driving your productivity. How do you continue to improve that? And like yourself, we find the breakdown in communication often happens across the board. Micromanaging sneaks in because of either personality or leadership styles and or trait gaps. So it really
Mhm.
is I like that you really take kind of like ourselves more holistic,
Mhm.
balanced approach. You kind of identified a couple of those different challenges and how they both impacted yours and other organizations. Could you maybe share like kind of the one thing that you identified in a lot of your work that really helped impact a culture or performance positively?
Yeah, the number one leadership skill that's necessary, I said in 2024, but now it's going to be 2025.
Crazy.
Active listening, across the
Mhm.
board, active listening. And what I'm finding, Will, is when we do training on it, we might have a whole day workshop. We might cover all kinds of topics. That's the one that people can easily remember. They know how to work on it. It keeps coming up. Like that's what I'm noticing. We'll check in 30 days, 90 days, and it keeps we hear feedback like, yeah, my active listening, I've been working on it, here's how. And when people practice active listening, it has an immediate impact to improve the feel in the moment, and that can get contagious. So typically what will happen is if you're practicing active listening with me, what do I feel, what do I experience? We're really focused on what is the impact or experience that you have, that you create in others. What's their experience? And we often ask that question to leaders. Like, I'm not sure. Like, how do you know? But this is what happens when someone's doing active listening. The other person they feel heard, obviously, right? They feel valued because you paid attention and like you engage. You just want like, huh, or just like ignore or just move on. And they also feel understood.
Hmm.
And I think when humans have that experience, they want more of it. Like, but they also it reverse engineers that conundrum that you said, like 90 seconds at the door. Maybe I don't really want to walk into this place today,
Right.
right? It creates more of like I'm looking forward to it because my teammates, they listen to me. Like we work together, we collaborate. I had
Right.
a manager at a client that we work with. We did training on active listening, emotional intelligence, things like that. And he maybe said 6 months ago, before you guys were here, whenever we were in a management team meeting and how we problem solved, we just yelled at each other, we fought, we competed. It was like it wasn't very productive and it was frustrating and it just felt like a waste of time. And we didn't really solve problems. We just fought, kind of idea.
Mhm.
He said, now what we do is we come to solutions much quicker. We listen to each other better. It's much smoother. It's more efficient. It's just more of a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
And it just feels better. And it was just really cool to see like they were really implementing active listening
Well,
as a resource and a tool that they could use.
yeah, I love that you bring that up and also share from the perspective of what was happening before there was knowledge
Right.
of active listening and better communication to the results of the better outcomes of that. And we've heard frequently managers, upper level managers, supervisors, et cetera, go, well, I'm not a therapist. I don't have to know or do these things, but that's different than
Mhm.
engaging the active listening, having empathy, understanding that you don't have to solve the problem, but
Mhm.
simply listening may alleviate some of the anxiety, may improve well-being, and generally can give you insights into how to better manage and help that individual.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll say that all the time. Like, we'll say we're not therapists. I mean, my wife actually is, so I know what that is, and I know that's not what I do, and I have obviously a high respect for it. But I think, yeah, it's like what happens when there's that kind of listening environment. It increases a healthy culture because, as you named a couple times, like it really takes into consideration the whole person. It really creates more of that like belonging type of environment, inclusive. Like you are a part of the team. You're an important part of the team. One of the terms that we'll talk about sometimes is shared intelligence. No one person has all the right answers or all the best ideas. Sometimes, especially in a leadership role, you can have the misnomer that somehow I have to always know what to do. I always have to be the one to save the day, come up with the solution.
Right.
But shared intelligence is like, look, here's the situation. We need a little bit, like we need different perspectives so we can collectively come up with the best idea. That doesn't mean like everything's a vote or you always ask everyone's opinion on every issue. I'm not saying that, but you
Right.
really are bringing about like that idea of shared intelligence
Mhm.
and, just some of those values that we bring in kind of the way we do our work. We see more and more like the clients that we work with, they start to adopt those kind of practices, those habits, those mindsets, those values.
Mhm.
And it's like their cultural impact and health of it just continues to increase. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we've heard a lot from leaders that have stepped into challenging situations, challenging organizations. They may have been the change agent, turnaround people, and with that listening, engaged and involved, has been a driver of change, but also has helped people actually ask better questions, step up, move
mhm,
the needle forward. And so
mhm,
it's been interesting to observe that. And so I love that you really focus on kind of some of those elements of the cultural space. So as we wrap
mhm.
up, is there anything else you'd like to add or share with fellow leaders?
Just one other aspect, it's a little bit of maybe reverse engineering the active listening, but we'll often train, especially senior leaders, your words create culture. So the language that you use, the words, the way you respond or don't respond, like just that creates culture, whether you like it or not. So consider what kind of culture are you creating? Do you want to create? And what kind of language and words and kind of almost even tone and body language, all those pieces, like it really does have an impact. And so what is it that you're creating? What do you want to create? Get feedback on, is that actually being created? So just kind of that whole idea of like, whenever you speak, you are creating culture as a leader. Be mindful of the culture you are creating.
Yeah, I love that thought. Brant, I've enjoyed having you on our Leadership Lovers podcast. Thank you again for your insights.
Absolutely. Thanks, Will, for having me. Great to have the conversation together and really encourage all leaders out there to continue to produce healthy culture in your organization.
Thank you for joining us on the Leadership Lovers podcast. Find all our Leadership Lovers episodes on the Culture Think Tank website at www.theculturethinktank.com or listen on your favorite streaming platform. We'd love to hear from you about the challenges you have faced as a leader. Tune in weekly as we invite leaders to share their experiences in strengthening culture and performance, one action at a time.